Spivey was telling us about a discussion we're about to have. Clarify for me a little bit exactly what information you're seeking.
I'm not really, I guess I am sort of asking individual perspectives, but really the position of the board in terms of what we need to do, even in job postings for the school system. If there were, for example, a majority of our board who did not feel that we should hire someone who obtained their certification through like an alternative means like that, then we would need to include something like that in our job postings so that we wouldn't even be going through a process with someone like that. And
define alternative means.
Well, there are lots of alternative pathways, but and there are more and more, and going to be more and more alternative pathways moving forward. So that's why I said this is going to be even more of an issue. But an example of something that happens. Let's say that someone is like me, for example. I had a double major in math and English, so I was dually certified. I took all the coursework, but if in math and English. So let's say I had gotten my degree in math only, but wanted to be certified to teach English, there was an alternative way. Now there is an alternative way where I could take a praxis exam and demonstrate that I had the content knowledge to also teach that and get a dual certification. But I have not taken the coursework to do that. And there are multiple ways that people can go through alternative pathways to get certification, and especially in the career technical fields, but not just in those fields. It's like every day they're adding more and more and pushing this. This is an agenda to push so that people in other areas of industry and the workforce can become certified / highly qualified HQ to teach in the K-12 public school system. I believe also with this advancement of the charter school initiative that's coming on us, they don't have certification requirements. And so I feel like to compete, this conversation is just going to ramp up in the public education arena too, so there will be even more. It was already headed in that direction, and I think it will be increasingly a topic of conversation. So I was concerned because, a few of you mentioned a concern about that in terms of the quality of candidates. And so it's not a unique situation, it's something that happens a lot. So I wanted to make sure that in and of itself is not a factor that we need to take a look at in-house in terms of job postings.
My personal thought on that would be anything that you made a part of a job requirement that would restrict the applicant pool to anything more than entry level would probably be a mistake. I would prefer to get everything from entry level up, and then through the vetting process, you would use other factors to trim that down to come up with your best employee that you wish to hire.
That's currently what is happening. Like right now, we have a job posted, an art teacher position posted. Well, there aren't tons and tons of certified candidates out there, and there are a lot of classroom teachers who want to take a praxis test to become, quote, certified, highly qualified in that area. So they would, if they do that, would apply for the job and be considered just like any other candidate, having met those, guidelines. So I just wanted to make sure, because on the board agenda next week, again, we're going to have at least one candidate that falls into our recommendation that falls into that category.
But okay, so someone who has become certified through an alternate means that you're mentioning, and one is praxis, they're certified by the state of Alabama, and they are highly qualified in whatever area they have passed on their exam, and the state saying, okay, so are there any kind of penalties that we have to pay then, or there's not?
No, if the state issues the certification and deems them highly qualified, and there are, you can't even count how many different ways there are, then they consider them qualified. And so, no, the only thing you get into is if you don't meet all of the requirements in a particular, pathway to certification, and then when they do the LEAPS report through, the data system, they haven't been fining school systems, but they threaten every year that there will eventually be a fine attached to each person that you have teaching courses, and they're not highly qualified to teach the course. That has not happened yet, but it's coming. But no, they wouldn't fall into that category.
Well, like the education courses, I don't have to take those, do
It depends on what the pathway is. There are some that they do and some that they don't. And there are, I don't even know how many to count, and it changes every day. But some they have to take courses and some they don't. And what I'm observing is there are increasingly pathways that don't require taking courses. There are more of those that are popping up than there used to be, where they can take a test. Maybe they have a degree completely outside of the realm of education, and they can get certified. They used to have to take certain courses, and in some cases they still do, but I think that is going by the wayside more and more.
I have seen teachers who were not teachers and not even in the field of education, and this was very scary to me, who could pass the practices in special education and would be working with special needs children, and that was alarming to me. So, I like the idea that there has at least been some education there, some training, even if they have changed fields and changed directions.
Ms. Jenny, any comments?
Yeah, I agree. I've observed situations where maybe a person has majored in something that was totally unrelated, far away from education. They were able to take something and came in and did work, but didn't seem to have that background to know how to do it. Does that make sense? That part of how to respond to the students, how to get the learning, because they just missed that part of training. For some people, it's just that's your natural teacher. And some people need more training. So that has concerned me. The only other thing I can say is, I imagine if you pass those practices, that you probably are knowledgeable. The only thing I would think if we've got people that have passed the praxis, but their major is very different from their praxis, then we have someone over here who has the major of whatever we're looking for, the certificates and everything. I just think that they would be way heavier.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
One would think that, and in many cases that's true,
individual.
but there are circumstances where, the
Right. person
who went through the traditional pathway is determined that they're not the best candidate, and that happens sometimes. And it also happens a lot in positions where you don't have a big candidate pool, where maybe, use the art teacher, there aren't just people standing on every street corner certified in that area, where people get librarian positions, things like that.
But you know what I would say, just from coming from an elementary standpoint, if you're teaching elementary, you're teaching. Yeah. So all I'll say is, if it's an elementary teacher that were to go get that art certification, I could see where that could intertwine. So,
Well,
that's
where I have been coming from is to meet the state minimum requirements, so we're in compliance with the state guidelines. And then from there, though, to take the candidate pool, whatever it is for every position, and us try to see who is the best fit for this position, based on all kinds of factors play into that. But I was just wanting to make sure there's not some particular issue with the board with this particular pathway, especially toward that.
Let's go around the table and see if any other comments. Ms. Thompson?
I can definitely see what real world experience is going to be so helpful for career tech and electives and things like that. It just concerns me just a little bit. if it's a core class, core class that they're going to be tested on, core class that they're going to be to do well at ACT, to do well at college. And, there's a difference in career preparation, college preparation sometimes as well. But number one, I think we need the best candidate, period, for the position. And then another concern that I jotted down was hiring people that maybe aren't quite ready to teach a core class or one of these higher level high school classes. We've got that added cost of professional development, classroom management, things that they haven't had to do that may, and of course we want to give them that if we need to. And I just see that as another concern, just having to invest a little bit more money, but sometimes you have to do that. But if there's someone that has applied for that position that already has that proven ability, then sometimes, I'm not against it, but I would hope that we don't look, we don't look for that. And definitely not, and this isn't going to be a popular thing for me to say, but definitely I don't want to see us make a lot of concessions for coaches to do that, because we got to put our academics before, not before, but just at least on an even keel with how we're hiring coaches as well.
And I always remind our administrators that, we are hiring a teacher. I mean, that is technically otherwise what we are doing at the table here. Anything from a coaching perspective comes after that. It's a supplemented, thing, so.
Mr. Eastland?
If I was the board, which I'm not, just one person, and I was guiding you, I think you want some guidance on how we would react. I can't say the fact that they took a praxis, as opposed to somebody who went to 4 years of college would not affect our role. And the reason is, especially, it's like it was already mentioned, if I'm going to hire a carpenter to do my work, this is kind of stupid. That's what I'll say it anyway. If I'm going to hire a carpenter to do my work, I'm not going to hire a plumber that took a carpenter test. I'm going to hire a real carpenter. And I just, I feel like I would say to you, and guidance to you and to the principals, to always look for that. And then, if that's a minimum to me. A person that's taken the praxis is a minimum qualification. A person who has a doctorate is a maximum qualification. But there's always other factors, because we've got some great teachers that came in with praxis, but they were in a field that gave them more experience than some of us had. It's like an artist. If they're a confirmed artist and they want to take the praxis to teach art, that's not the only thing, because they have to be able to work with kids, and special ed you mentioned. There's so many factors in there that I want these principals and us to make sure we get people that can work with children and can do the job and have that content knowledge. And so that would be, I'm not saying I would always go and get somebody to the praxis.
That's really what I needed to know.
I know that's what you're
And
asking.
sometimes we don't even know how they got to that point.
Well,
So is that something that's going to change?
Well, the next thing, like I said, this is going to come up next week, and so if this is something that y'all need to know, because you won't always know, you haven't always known, and we have many employees that fall into that category, and there will be more and more of that kind of thing. So, but I think what I'm hearing is kind of what you said, as I do, and we all do, we want the best candidate for a lot of reasons. The best teacher, and so from the candidate pool, but we would not, as a school system, exclude people that might pursue alternative pathways.
Can we, in addition to your recommendation, can we ask to have just your minimum requirements? Is that a no-no?
Well,
just kind of like their classroom experience times how many years.
I've never seen that on.
Some other school boards just have told me that they get that.
Yeah, we can look at it. It would not be difficult to add. That's the kind of
just
information.
your, basic, just so that.
Just so that we kind of see where
I think that would be
this
good
person's coming
myself.
from. It would be
I never heard of something
great.
like that.
I usually end up asking those similar questions anyway, and it would probably be more time efficient if some of it was provided as opposed to 5 of us asking you individually.
Go ahead. If there's with regard to adding the information.
I used to do a form when we were hiring new teachers, and it told the degree and certification. We used to do that all the time.
So we could do something like that, or figure out some, basic information
Basic
without going
information.
into.
What about experience? Was that in this one?
I think it was on this one. It's been a long time ago.
And we don't really talk
Doctor's
about
time.
it.
Where their background is, but like, we just experience.
I agree with those comments, but as far as changing procedures, it sounds like some additional information might be good, because we all end up calling and asking anyway, and it's very time consuming to talk to everybody like that.
I think that's doable.
Uh,
That's doable.
Yeah, and somebody correct me now if I'm wrong, I'm asking everybody on the board, is there anyone who wishes to speak that would be against what Dr. Spivey is talking about? In other words, I'm talking about as a hiring process period, not for any individual, but basically, if somebody's out of field and takes a practice, that means anybody is just dead set against them.
No, I think it depends on the individual
So we don't need to change
situation.
any procedures or based on that.